And we're now going to ask if Mayor Wu would join us on stage at the other podium. As she comes, we want to reiterate that our focus tonight is on what will happen in the months and years to come to address the issues that we are raising. But it has also been the practice of GBIO to acknowledge the work we've done with partners, whether they are elected officials or business leaders or community leaders. In the case of Mayor Wu, we want to acknowledge her participation in our last mayoral forum in 2021 and the funding of $50 million in partnership with GBIO and many other organizations for Mildred Haley Housing Development in 2022. And now, Mayor Wu, will you take those 3 minutes to introduce yourself?
Thank you so much, Reverend Hammond. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Boston. I want to thank our hosts tonight. Thank you to Brother Hillman and Reverend Wright and Pastor Hammond and Pastor White Hammond at home, Reverend Groover, and to all the members of GBIO, BMA TenPoint, and all of our friends and beloved community members who are here today. Oh, I see my father, my priest here today. Hello, Father Brian. I'll give you a shout out. And thank you to my fellow elected officials and candidates for being here tonight. Look, this is timely that we're here today. We are 1 week away from the preliminary election in Boston. But I also want to recognize that for many families in the city, there's an even more pressing upcoming date. Today is the day before the first day of school for our Boston Public School families. And one thing that we do in Boston is every year, the day before school starts, the superintendent and I go and knock on doors of the students who had the most challenges keeping consistent attendance the year before. So we go to their doors with backpacks, with smiles, with questions. What can we do better? How can we support you? And every year we hear about what our families are experiencing that are showing up in our schools for our teachers, to housing issues, medical issues, issues around income and jobs for mom and dad or grandma or grandpa or caregiver. This year, I imagine we are going to hear an additional level of fear from our communities. We have already heard that coming to school, just the act of coming to school, going to the doctor, is now cloaked in many more layers of consideration. And so what's happening at the federal level to divide us, to intimidate us, to terrify and isolate us, requires a group, interfaith, intergenerational, intercultural, multicultural response. I wonder where we could find that kind of response in the city of Boston, right? So GBIO has been doing this work in partnership with you all. We have made record progress, driving gun violence and major crimes down to the lowest level on record in Boston's history, dating back 70 years, investing more than ever before in paid youth summer jobs, creating more seats, free universal pre-K and early education, opening 54 new family childcare sites in Dorchester, Mattapan, Roxbury, Hyde Park, investing in open space and parks and block parties and community to come together, and we know we have a lot more work to do. This is a moment where Boston is being targeted by the federal administration because we are proof of everything that shows exactly why they are wrong. They are wrong on the law, they are wrong on safety, and they need to see that rather than being bullied, we are standing up. Rather than being divided, we are coming together. Rather than backing down, we are moving forward more than ever before. And thank you so much for having us tonight.
Now for some specific questions. Thank you, Mayor. I want to start with Madison Park. As Brian so powerfully shared, we know funding for Madison Park really matters. And as he asked, will you commit to completing the Madison Park High School renovation project with or without MSBA funds? And if MSBA denies funding for that renovation, please detail how you will secure the funds for the renovation. As we agreed, you'll answer that in 90 seconds.
Great. Thank you. So it's important, as you hear from us tonight, that it's clear we are committing to things that we know can be done, right? And I will just say, yes, the short answer is that I will do everything in my power as mayor for as long as I'm able to support and have the honor of this role to make sure that Madison Park gets completed all the way and has the programs, the pathways, the resources that it needs. School projects, this says, will you commit to completing? School projects are a multi-year process, and Madison Park is our top priority among a very large portfolio that needs to be done. We are going to the MSBA precisely because this will be the most expensive school renovation and reconstruction project that Boston has taken on and that the state will have taken on. Our early estimates, as we've been doing work for several years now with the Friends, with alumni group, with community members, multiple years of design and process to identify the 21 pathways that will be there, this will be more than a $700 million project. That is a big chunk of the city's capital budget, and we will need some supports to figure out how we get there, but we will get there. I guarantee you that. We've had very productive conversations, and we're not waiting to figure out when we get every dollar of that amount. We signed a historic project labor agreement to guarantee students and graduates from Madison starting this year already will have designated spots with the trades, full union benefits, and able to start their careers. The first time in 20 years that has happened. And we're making renovations already and making investments even before we do the full redo.
All right, Mayor. Does that sound like a yes to you? Yes. All right. On immigration, as Bishop Homiciel shared, we know the city of Boston needs to protect our immigrant siblings and residents. As he asked earlier, what role should Boston's police and city agencies play in relation to ICE? How should they respond with federal immigration efforts affecting individuals, especially those who are wage earners in those households? And most importantly, and this is really critical, by what percentage will you commit to expanding the needed legal assistance, housing protections, and city services for families facing threats?
For me, this is not theoretical. I am a daughter of immigrants, and my parents took many, many years after coming to this country to become U.S. citizens. They had to learn English. It was 20 years before they finally felt security in getting their citizenship. But their love for this country, their patriotism, that of our immigrant communities who have given up and sacrificed everything to come here and love America only as someone who knows it from scratch and has sacrificed for it does, that is what we are fighting for to ensure that Boston continues to be a home for everyone. So we see the president already saying not only has he deployed troops in LA and DC, but Chicago and Baltimore are now next. The courts have already ruled just earlier today and this week that it was illegal to send the National Guard to LA despite the governor's objection. So the law is clear. And unlike the Trump administration, Boston follows the law at the city, state, and federal level. We are going to continue to do so and not cooperate with mass deportations. When there is I want to be clear though, because some people are saying that when we call ourselves a home for everyone, that means we shield dangerous or criminal behavior, and that couldn't be farther from the truth. We provide city services to everyone, no questions asked about immigration status, and if you commit harm in our community, we also hold you accountable, regardless of immigration status. That is why we are the safest major city. In our time, we have created programs, I'm going to answer the question really specifically. We have created grants of $700,000 for the organizations serving our immigrant communities. This year, we more than tripled that, $2.1 million, because it was needed, and we will increase that to whatever level is needed, whether through city dollars or philanthropy to make sure it gets happen. Thank you.
Audience, is that a yes? Yes. All right. With that, Brother Amir.
Good evening, Mayor Wu.
Good evening.
My pleasure. Next, we're going to deal with home ownership. As Felicia Richard shared, we know that there's a gap in home ownership in our city, disproportionately for Black and Latino families. As she mentioned earlier, given that home ownership rate for Black and Latino families are significantly lower than for white families, by what percentage will you commit to reducing the racial home ownership gap during your term, and what policies will you implement to achieve this? Thank you.
I am proud that our administration has put more to housing and housing affordability than any other mayoral administration, because we've partnered with our state partners and city council to deploy federal resources, city resources, state resources to helping 1,000 new families become first-time homebuyers in Boston, stabilizing 1,000 more families at permanently rent-controlled rates through our acquisition opportunity program, creating new pathways for those living in subsidized housing to directly become homeowners, and even more. To say this specific question of how much can you close the gap is not one that, it's a lot of moving parts and pieces. And so I will say, I will do everything in my power to reduce that gap as much as possible. But even measuring that gap is a process that can take years sometimes, and you need accountability faster than that. What I will commit to is this. We helped 1,000 families become first-time home buyers in the last 4 years. We will help at least 1,000 more become first-time home buyers. 65% of those 1,000 families were families of color in those first 4 years. We will make sure that we do that and at least more in the second, in another 4 years. We helped 1,000 families stabilize in their apartments, naturally occurring affordable housing. We will help another 1,000 families at least. We have created 150 opportunities for our Welcome Home Boston program, not only for home ownership units to be created in the neighborhood that are affordable, but for developers who reflect and represent our communities to build those homes. And so 80% of the development firms through that program have been developers of color. We will keep up that progress as well.
So, community, would you like to answer you heard? I'm asking the folks, okay, let's hear it, okay. One last question, Mayor Wu. If elected, will you commit to meeting with GBIO and BMA TenPoint during your first 100 days of office?
Yes, it would be an honor.
Thank you so much. You have 1 minute for closing remarks if you so choose to.
It has been a humbling gift every day to be able to wake up and work alongside the best people on the planet and get to know the most amazing community members and have the honor of serving in this role. I've had a little time in city government now. I'm approaching 15 years in City Hall, first working for Mayor Menino, then 8 years on the City Council, and now serving humbly as your mayor. I'm a mom of 3 kids. I've raised my family in Boston, and before I raised my kids, I raised my sisters through some difficult times in our family. I fight for Boston because this city has given my family and me everything that is most precious in our lives, and I know what's possible. We all, each in our respective corners, are rolling up our sleeves and solving every problem there is to solve in Boston. What we can do as a city is come together in this moment and be greater than the sum of our parts. Be that light, the beacon, the shining city on a hill, the beacon of freedom and a home for everyone. I respectfully ask for your vote and your prayers.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Wood.